morning, it's story time. I left you last week in the rain, and now we are back, and it's May of 1993. We are now in our halfway house. Our new bedroom is beautiful, especially compared to our break room apartment. The shadow forest green, lush, deep carpet is luxurious to walk on barefoot. While most of the walls are white with a hint of rose, we have the contrast of the black print tablecloths on the two round tables and the black in the background of the wallpaper twined with roses on one wall, wainscot high. And also on our bed was a black and it was a white lace quilt made out of lace and doilies with a black border around each square. I still have it. One of the nicest parts was being able to use my old familiar maple dresser again that Tom bought me the first year we were married, and I still have that and use it. Being able to unpack the stored items and furniture was like restoring old bits of my life back together. At first, we didn't have water in the back, so at night we trudged up to the shop to use the outhouse. It was really in the shop. But thankfully, Tom soon remedied that, and now we have our cute little small, very small half bath, more than half finished, with water. At night, we find it a great pleasure to sit in our living room, besides sitting in the little bathroom when necessary, where we enjoy watching the setting sun from our western view. I think it's appropriate the house faces west, as it is the house of our sunset years. On the downside, it is the old age problem associated with having two dwellings. The Murphy's Law goes into effect. When you need it, it's at the other place. I find myself in a rush to get off to work, waking in my new bedchamber to discover all three of my robes are at the old apartment with its keys in the robes' pockets. Or stepping out of the break room shower while still dripping, realizing my undies are in my old familiar shower. This Mother's Day, I had the dinner in our new dining room. It was extra work carrying the dishes down and up. The affair was like a potluck in a way, since we had to carry it all there from the old dwelling. Tam, our daughter, and did salad and the rolls. We had two college girls come that I invited at the last moment. They were from Washington State and Japan. As I gave them a quick tour of our halfway house, they noticed we had no bathroom door on our very cute small little bathroom. Yes, another problem. I explained one could stand guard for the other or even sing. If they still felt awkward, they could use the shop bathroom, but it doesn't have a door either. Modesty is not one of the best qualities to have when visiting us, except if you have a limitless bladder. And one of the fun things we've done lately was to have our third annual kite party. We've had about 36 people over last Sunday in April to fill our skies with over a dozen different colorful kites, and we also ate our way through salads and hot dogs and licked ice cream cones, and some of the kids brought their rollerblade skates, and we had a big area of cement to skate on inside the warehouse. It was a simple party but fun, and for those of you who attended, I hope you think so also. In the fun category, I was able to model clothes for the Bon Marché at two events. I think I have the picture at the front. Most of what I wore was from the Liz collection, dressy to sporty. Long swishing dresses to bright colored walking shorts, shoes and hats to match. It's hard to hang up all those clothes and walk away. And I don't know if you noticed, but the picture also has a little drawn picture, sort of a silhouette type picture. I drew that in my 30s as what I would look like when I was this age, and I did pretty good. Okay. And then I have a PS. Last Friday, I had to admit my father into the hospital. He was passing huge blood clots into his urine. He was operated on Monday in hopes of stopping the bleeding. An operation was called by its initials TURP, of which I don't know what stands for, but it involves unplugging the prostate gland. And in operation, they found out he didn't have prostate cancer. It was all the other cancer with the asbestos, the bladder, the lungs, so forth. And also the prostate was involved in it. I mean, excuse me, the pancreas. Okay, I think it went well, but it's too soon to tell. Ironically, he's in the same room he was last Mother's Day. Well, it didn't go well, and he came home, and he died either the first night he was home or the second night he was home. And we think that it was a blood clot that went through his heart. And I was there with him when it happened. I can remember touching him, and as I touched him is when he died. And he was kneeling by the side of the bed, and when I touched him, and I could just feel his life go. And then he just melted down. I mean, there was no life to hold him on the side of the bed. It hardly seems possible that it is over a month now since my father's death. And I thank everyone for what they've done for us and so forth. And I'm not going to read... Okay, I'll read part of what I wrote about him. Okay, I'm gonna just, this may not make sense at first. His mother lovingly called her son Marcus. She called him Mikey until her death in 1953. His sister called him Marky. His friends and associates called him Mac. His family fondly called him Gramps. He earned the title of being a unique, rugged individual who never knew an enemy. He was always ready to help others with his time, knowledge, and money. In his late youth, he was almost killed in an accident that crushed him between a truck and a trailer. This resulted in his being disqualified to serve in World War II. Instead, he served his country by moving to Napa, California, not Nampa, Napa, California, to work in the shipyards. He was an expert welder, and no one could surpass his work with a burning torch. In 1945, he moved his family back to Fair Oaks, California, and in early 1950, he went to work for Aerojet General Corporation as an operations engineer till he retired in 1968. Again, in 1961, he was in another bad accident that permanently injured his right hip sockets. As a consequence of the injury, both his hips were replaced. These replacements lasted 10 years, and then they both had to be replaced again. Upon retirement, he and his wife, Dorothy, and her maiden name, my mother's maiden name was Smallwood, moved to Council, Idaho. At the age of 65, he built a double A-frame home at the edge of the Middle Fork of the Weiser River. They dwelt in Council, Idaho from June 1968 to May 1992. His last move was made to Nampa, Idaho, at the age of 83. This move was prompted by the fact that he had cancer and He lived next to his daughter and son-in-law for just over a year before his death at the age of 84. His death came simply after a tiring day at home, recovering from an operation. He died. The surgery was not considered the cause of death. Perhaps his death came from a result of a blood clot or old age itself. Whatever the cause, Marcus Robbins McKinney went home to be with his Lord Saturday, 10 p.m., May 15th, 1993, and I had the privilege of being there when he died. And I'm very thankful for that. So, many family, friends, and acquaintances have testified that my father was a prince among men. My mother knew him as the love of her life. Okay. I find myself missing my father at odd times. I have his watch that beats at the hours, which he wasn't able to hear for the last few years. It still gave notice of the hours to remind me he was gone. I would have liked to have seen him, I would have liked to have him seen our first wheat crop on the back 5 acres. Hand in hand, I would have slowly walked beside him into the thick green crop, waving its heads in the evening breezes. He would have told me about wheat and barley, and he would remind me about Ruth in the Bible, how she gleaned the wheat, and how she married Boaz. Okay, his parents preceded my father in death in 1947 and 1953. Also, his older brother preceded my father in death in 1965. His only son, Captain Michael Robin McKinney, was killed in Germany while serving in the U.S. States Air Force in March of 1963 at the age of 28. Matthew Mark Lawrence, our son, his grandson, at the age of 25, was killed February 21st, 1988, in a one-car accident. I am sure these young men were impatiently waiting at the gates of heaven with the other family members and friends to welcome their father and grandfather and friend home.